Hello, I'm chemist John Pendleton, and this is our conference number 11, the second of a series of 3 about dinosaurs. In this one today, we're going to begin out with the movie Jurassic Park. Now, in the movie Jurassic Park, and by the way, basically just about any movie you see made by Hollywood or wherever, the purpose of their movies is not to follow what is history, what is science, what is the truth. They make a movie to make money, okay? And so just because there was in a movie like Jurassic Park is that all of it is true. There's some stuff in it that was true. There's also stuff in it that is just makeup in order to make a movie. And of course, with our first transparency here, the idea was to find a mosquito that had sucked dinosaur blood and became trapped in amber. Amber is that sticky tree resin that we believe washed down with the flood, and insects became trapped in there. And then it became petrified or fossilized in that clear crystalline form called amber. Now that was a movie. It is not the truth. What is the truth is this next picture. They have found Tyrannosaurus rex bones that are not completely fossilized. They're not completely turned into stone. There's still parts of it that are like fresh bones. Now, first of all, if that's the case, how long ago did that dinosaur die? Millions of years ago? Not that long ago. Some hundreds or maybe a couple thousand years ago, but not millions of years ago. And look at this. Under a microscope, they have found little red globules. Every test to present indicates we indeed have found real dinosaur blood. That is amazing. And that is devastating to the belief that dinosaurs became extinct 65 billion years ago. They died out, if they died out at all, completely. Now, in the biblical record, we have the story of creation in 6 days. And as we mentioned earlier, God made on the 5th day all of the sea creatures and the birds. And so that would be a time that God would have made the marine dinosaurs and the pterodactyls, the flying reptiles or flying dinosaurs. And on day 6, he made the land animals, as well as Adam and Eve, and there would have been land dinosaurs. Now, we saw in the first conference that dinosaurs originally were herbivorous. They were not meat eaters. They were vegetarians, if you please. And so there was no danger of them eating Adam and Eve. Now, this is the cover from a rather liberal magazine, and on the cover, the man is saying to the woman, "What? He told you that dinosaurs existed on the earth at the same time as man?" Yeah, he called it creationism. It's the latest in scientific findings. Now, this magazine was not at all in favor of that fact. And so they had to kind of poo-poo the whole situation. Now, we want to go to Texas, south of Dallas-Fort Worth, southwest, to a town about 80 miles from there called Glen Rose. Next to Glen Rose is a state park called Dinosaur Valley. In that park, they have found over 2,500 dinosaur footprints in Cretaceous stone. Now, let's take a little step back. Why did they put the name Jurassic Park as the name of that movie? I would have put the name Dinosaur Park, because there were all kinds of dinosaurs. What does Jurassic Park have to do with it? Well, if you remember when we saw the geological time scale, there's actually 3 periods that they say pertain most to dinosaurs: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Those are the names for the levels of the rock. Well, in this area of central Texas by Glen Rose, there's a lot of Cretaceous stone, and in the Cretaceous stone they have found these dinosaur footprints. Now, on that area there also goes the Paluxy River, which in summertime, July and August, when there's very little rain, the river tends to dry up. And that's when they first began to cite in the bottom of the river dinosaur footprints in the stone. There was a big flood in the early 1900s that just rushed through that area and just lifted off a whole overlay of stone, revealing underneath that, preserved excellently, these dinosaur footprints. And so that which has caused investigation and studies in that area, and revealing also the Dinosaur Valley Park. Here's one also from the the Paluxy Riverbed. You can see the different dinosaur footprints here in the stone. Notice here on the left side the overlay of stone that had to be lifted off. Once they found some prints, they began going over and lifting up the succeeding overlays and found these dinosaur prints. Notice also in the front of the photograph the ripples there that are preserved in stone. I believe they're the beginnings of Noah's flood. And there was a movement of water that made ripples in the mud, and then a ton of mud fell on top, sealing in those ripples and footprints. If you go to Dinosaur Valley State Park, as you're going along that small county road, you'll go right in front of the Creation Evidences Museum. Stop in there. It is fantastic. Now, they're closed on Sundays and Mondays, so plan your trip accordingly. I've been there on 3 occasions, and every time I'm impressed, and I learned new things. Now, this photograph was taken in the museum. This is one dinosaur footprint, and this is a number 11 shoe of my youngest son, not by any means the shortest of my boys. And you can see here next to his shoe one of the toes of the footprint. To the left-hand side is another of the toes of the footprint, and in the middle is the third toe. Measures almost a yard across, that footprint. Huge foot that dinosaur had. Now, though they've discovered a number of dinosaur footprints on private property, they found dinosaur footprints also. And they have located human footprints. You see, now just a minute. That's what I said. Fantastic, interesting, new information. On private property, they found over 400 dinosaur footprints and 80 human footprints. Here's one of the footprints. You can see where the large toe is, the form of the foot of the other toes, and then a ruler alongside to give an idea for scale. Here's another human footprint. You can see the large toe, 1, 2, 3, 4 small toes. They carefully cut out the whole rock and then cut it diagonally with a sharp saw, and found the corresponding lamination indicating it is a true human footprint. Now let's do a little experiment. Everybody raise your right hand. Now with your thumb, touch your fingers one by one to the other fingers. Okay, do that again. Okay, good. Now put your hand down. Now with your right foot, touch your big toe to all your other little toes. Anybody do that? Would you please leave the room? You belong to another species. You see, what this is a human footprint. Humans have 2 hands and 2 feet. The monkeys or apes have 4 hands. What we call feet are actually like a hand. This is definitely a human footprint. Here's another footprint in stone where somebody put their foot, fit exactly to the form of the footprint in stone. Now, it's very impressive that in one area there's a whole bunch of dinosaur footprints in Cretaceous stone. In another area there's some human footprints in Cretaceous stone. That's impressive enough in itself. But more impressive are these footprints. Here we have Cretaceous stone, and in the front we see a dinosaur footprint, and just 18 inches away is a human footprint in Cretaceous stone. What does that mean? Men and dinosaurs lived together at the same time, just like the Bible indicates. A couple more. Okay. The man on the right here in the blue shirt is pointing to a dinosaur footprint. Actually, it's a trail that goes from top to bottom on the page. The man on the left in the yellow-orange shirt is pointing to a human footprint, a path that goes from left to right on the page. It's only 7.5 inches away from the dinosaur footprint. Indicates men and dinosaurs lived together. Here's another series of prints, left, right, of human footprints. Came up to this overlay of stone. Now, since this site is relatively close to Dallas-Fort Worth, They notified the television, newspapers, some universities to come on down and watch while they lift up that overlay of stone to see if the human footprints would continue. So they brought in a big tractor and carefully lifted up that overlay of stone with a high-pressure water hose, cleaned that whole area. There were a total of 14 human footprints with an average stride of a yard. Now the amazing thing is, not that it was in Cretaceous stone exactly, that person was stepping on top of dinosaur footprints. Here we have a sketch of the dinosaur print with the human print on top. The left-hand picture, we see the heel section of the dinosaur print goes up to the right. Then, starting from the heel position again, going up to the left, we see the human footprint on top of the dinosaur footprint. Men and dinosaurs lived at the same time. Thoroughly different than what they've always told us, but thoroughly in agreement with what the Bible says. Here we have, to close out this part about the footprints, is we see here in Cretaceous stone a path of dinosaur footprints crossing the path of human footprints. Men and dinosaurs lived together. Also found in that area was this human handprint in Cretaceous stone. Geologists have verified this is Cretaceous stone. And the thing is, it's obvious this is a human handprint in Cretaceous stone. Now what I think happened was it was beginning to rain for the first time in history at the start of the flood. This person got scared, was running for higher ground, somehow tripped, was falling, put their hand out to break their fall, but since it had rained some, the ground was kind of soft, left that print in the mud and took off. Well, they died in the flood. Anyway, but then some mud came in, sealed that over, and preserved it. Also found in that area is this hammer. Now when the hammer was found, it's inside of Cretaceous stone. All they could see was just a little bit of wood sticking out of the bottom. As they hit the rock above, it fell off and revealed the hammer inside. Now, if you can notice, there's a little bitty mark on it. The hammer, they scraped it with a file, and indicating that it was steel. They sent this hammer in this state to the laboratory that tested the rocks they brought back from the moon. The laboratory said this was a special kind of steel, that it was iron that had bonded with sulfur and chlorine. It's a stainless steel, and they said this kind of steel can only be made today if it's in an atmosphere more than double atmospheric pressure. Isn't that amazing? And, by the way, dinosaurs do not make hammers. Another interesting artifact is this fossilized finger. Some will say, oh, Mr. Pendleton, that does look like a finger, but really, you don't believe that, do you? Well, it does have the shape of a finger in a place that looks like it used to have the nail, but let's be good scientists. Let's do more testing of it, not just looking at something. And they've done just that. They did two more excellent tests. One was they cut off a small end of the finger or finger-like object and found exactly what they hoped to find. Fossilized skin, fossilized flesh, the tendons, the bone, even the marrow was fossilized. Then they did a scan of it, and they saw the different density within the finger, indicating where the bone used to be. By the way, this person was a giant. They had fingers that were 6 inches long. Amazing. Men and dinosaurs lived together. Well, when we go into caves sometimes where people used to live, we find different drawings on the caves or canyon walls. What kind of drawing could a archaeologist find that would scare him? Well, if he saw drawings of dinosaurs and pterodactyls, it would scare him to death. Why? Because it goes against his belief system. Not for us. We believe men and dinosaurs lived together. We have this cave in Europe, the Bernafal Cave, in which you can see by the diagram below, up on the rock, a mammoth is butting heads with a dinosaur. They drew what they'd seen. Interesting thing about this cave, it's closed. You can't get in to see what's in there. Why not? Because they don't want us to know that men and dinosaurs lived together, because it goes against what they've been teaching us and continually saying, that men and dinosaurs didn't live together. Now, in Utah, in the Natural Bridges National Monument Park, there's a number of interesting things to see there of natural bridges, but in one of the canyons, there is this drawing on the canyon wall. You can see here the head, long neck, 4 legs, and long tail. Looks just like a dinosaur. Now some people say, no, that was just some hippie that was smoking marijuana. He went down there and drew that. Now that's a possibility. Here's an interesting thing. In desert areas, when the rock is exposed for long centuries of time to sun and heat and cold, rain, snows, the rocks that are exposed begin to form what's called desert varnish. It's a glossy formation that builds up over the rock. And this particular dinosaur drawing has a very thick deposit of this desert varnish, indicating that it was made some hundreds of years ago. In the Grand Canyon, there are many drawings that the Native Americans had made years and years ago. Buffalo and deer and warriors, corn, snakes, things like that. And in one of the places, there's this particular drawing that looks very much like an Edmontosaurus, a type of dinosaur. In another canyon wall, there is this drawing of some winged creature. Now notice his wings are not like that of an eagle, but they're more like this one of a pterodactyl. That your flying dinosaur or flying reptiles, because it has like a membrane. They drew what they had seen. In 1890, in Arizona, a couple cowboys were out on the range and saw a large winged creature take off on the horizon. They rode over there and shot it and killed it, cut off the tips of its wings, and it was reported in the Tombstone newspaper. Probably the last living Quetzalcoatlus at that time. Now in the south of the Soviet Union, they found a high plain where they found over 3,000 dinosaur footprints. With those, they never had any problem. The problem began to rise and they began to find also human footprints mixed in with the dinosaur footprints. Now, what can we expect from these people? Are they going to change their way of thinking? Of course not. What are they good at? Making up fascinating stories. And so in 1995, in the newspaper Pravda in Moscow, came this reporter's comments on the human and dinosaur footprints together. He wrote, "Because we know that humans appeared much later than dinosaurs, it was an extraterrestrial that walked in his swimming suit on the ancient seashore." Isn't that fantastic? Rather than face the fact that humans and dinosaurs live together, they have to make up some incredible story. Now, one of the things that I want to encourage you in all of this is that that verse that's been a blessing to me, Proverbs 11:30. "The fruit of righteousness is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise." When I started giving these creation talks, 1994, many different times on television in 97, I honestly often felt kind of like an apostate. Or as people say, I was doing things in the flesh, not in the spirit. You know, I'm talking about dinosaurs and fossils and carbon-14 and science and once in a while a Bible verse. Honestly, it felt very uncomfortable. In 1998, I was invited to Cuernavaca, Mexico, an hour south of Mexico City. And I spoke in a church where 200 people paid $1 to hear me speak. The pastor came to me and says, "John, would you be willing to preach on Sunday?" I said, "Oh, sure, I can preach about anything. What do you want?" He said, "Oh, this, your strong area." I said, "This? In church on Sunday?" He said, "Yeah, Juan, yeah, go for it, John. Do it." Well, I really didn't feel right about it, but the Lord said to me, he says, John, if the pastor said it's okay, it's okay. Well, believe it or not, I gave 2 Sunday morning services, same preaching, because the people didn't fit in one service. The church is so big. I preached twice on dinosaurs, and even God liked the message. You say, well, John, how do you know that? Because 10 people gave their lives to Jesus Christ. That was a turning point in my ministry in 1998. God spoke to me and says, you know, John, it doesn't make any difference. If we use dinosaurs to get people's attention, to answer their questions, to help them see that science is in agreement with the Bible, that the Bible had it right first, we can make a transition that goes into the gospel of my son Jesus Christ. And if they get saved, let's do it. I was in La Ceiba, Honduras. It's on the Gulf Coast in 2001. I was speaking in different schools. And the last school I spoke in, after the prayer, I said, now how many of you seriously, honestly, asked Jesus to come into your heart as your Lord and Savior? Please raise your hand. 100 hands went up, and one of the teachers. I was later in Ecuador, and speaking this time in Christian schools. The second day there, I spoke in this one Christian school, and a lady came up to me with tears in her eyes. She says, John, you have no idea what this dinosaur conference meant to me. A week ago, myself, my husband, and our children had a terrible family fight over dinosaurs in the Bible. She says, today you answered all of the questions that I could not answer a week ago. And so the stories begin to multiply over and over. This message is so important because as we have in our verse there in 1 Peter 3:15, but sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you a reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and with fear. And so we have answers. We have answers that we can give and that God is using to bless in many people's lives. Well, where are dinosaurs mentioned in history with a different name? They're called dragons. We have, for example, the George of England that in the year 300 killed a dragon. And in England we have found fossils of the baryonyx, a type of dinosaur. Amongst the Aborigines of Australia, they have a number of legends and songs that are thousands of years old, in which they describe very clearly large animals in the lakes of Australia that would tip over boats and canoes, eat the people. If there were livestock watering there, they would be eaten. And the description is basically identical with the plesiosaurus, that long-necked marine dinosaur. Without even anybody telling them, they'd already known about them there in Australia. Coming a little closer to home here in Mexico, in the state of Guanajuato, to the south, there's a town called Acámbaro. And there they have found some 33,000 ceramic figurines, most of them made before the time of Christ, many that look very much like dinosaurs. They had designed and made what they had seen. Men and dinosaurs lived together. In Peru, South America, we have the place called Ica. It's in south of Lima, close to Nazca, where the famous Nazca lines are. We'll talk about that more further on in the conferences about ancient or primitive man, conferences 19 and 20. But here we have a number of the Ica stones that are well cut into the stone and polished. And this one you can see dinosaurs in the two of them. The one here on the right, you can see the legs, the plates on the back, very much as we see in the Stegosaurus, the head, the eye, and a native Peruvian riding on a dinosaur. They drew what they had seen. Men and dinosaurs had lived with others. In fact, from these Ica stones, we have drawings of all of the dinosaurs that we know of today. In a number of different stones, they all appear. You can see in this one, let's see, there's like a Brachiosaurus. Here it looks like a fish. Here's like a Tyrannosaurus rex, a pterodactyl, a stegosaurus, triceratops. They drew what they had seen. Also in their articles of pottery and cloth, we have drawings too that look like dinosaurs. Men and dinosaurs have lived together. Now, let me just make a comment here as we're about to close, that there are basically two reasons why people believe in evolution. I believe it's just basically two. One is because of ignorance, and for that reason we are making these conferences to get rid of people's ignorance. Another reason is basically it's to calm their conscience, either from social pressure or basically the idea is this: there is no God, there are no commandments, there is no hell, I'm God, I can do what I please. People will believe in evolution because it's convenient. It's convenient because of their immoral lifestyle or just to maintain their social standing, to keep their job and not to rock the boat. Now I want you to stay in tune with us. We still have many great, really interesting things to share. There's still stuff. Hey, did dinosaurs go on the ark? Where are they in the Bible? Are there any alive today? Remember that balloon. Keep an open mind. We'll see you soon. God bless you. Thanks for being with us.